Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marcus show. I'm your host, Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we are joined by a personal friend, Carey Wallace. You know what? Let's bring her on down. How you doing today, Carey?
Hey, Marcus, I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing fantastic. Very excited. I'll be heading actually next week to the Big I conference in Verona, New York. Does work with the Big I this year, all kind of stuff. I know you're big into the insurance space. We'll talk all about that. But first question, Carey, what does the word authentic slash authenticity mean to you?
I think that means true, to be true and transparent and um, as as real as you can possibly be. That's how I would describe being authentic.
I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, being as real as you can possibly be, not trying to be someone or something that you know you can't be. Because trying to be someone you can't be, you can't sustain that for long. So, Carey, please tell our audience a little bit more about yourself, your journey, and your work in the insurance industry.
Yeah, so I joined the insurance industry about, oh my goodness, I guess it's already like 18 years ago, which seems crazy. Feels like yesterday. But that's not where I started my journey. To be quite honest, my first career was in a startup. I was in a technology startup, and we took it from birth to IPO. Super fun journey. It's what I thought I'd do for the rest of my life. And I was actually interviewing to be on an IPO team to do this with several small companies. And really far in the interview process, and found out I was pregnant with my first child. So I decided, whoa, hang on a minute, 95% travel and 18-hour days is probably not the best way to be a good mom. So I decided to halt that. I stayed home and raised both of my girls for a period of time. And then when I started my second career, I joined the insurance industry. I found a local association. You mentioned the Big I. At the time, the local association was the PIA of Ohio, and they were looking to merge with the Big I. And in my first job, I had some M&A experience, so they recruited me to join their team. I led that merger. They ended up becoming a merged state. And I thought, oh, this is a little baby project. I'll do it, and then I'll move on and find another tech company and do my thing. And I fell in love with the agents that I met on both of those boards, and I've been in the industry ever since, which is kind of crazy. So, and I worked with that association for a period of time. And fast forward, we created valuation and perpetuation planning services for agents. Once after that merger, I led that. I also led a data analytics company that we created at that association where I learned about agents. And about 5 years ago, started my own business, Agency Focus, where I do this consulting for agents across the country.
Oh, what, Gary, I love that. Agency focus, being a consultant to agencies around the country. You and I know each other through Chris Paradiso. A lot of people from Hawksoft to Capital Premium Financing to Mick Hunt to Daniel Song, Mike Strong. We go down the list, but I love your concept, your business of agency focus. Can you please tell us one question? We're going to get into agency focus. What does being authentic, or how does being authentic allow you to excel, right, Carey, in the career path you have chosen?
That's a fantastic question. And I think it's pretty simple. I ask agents to tell me and show me information about their agency that they're not likely to share with other people. So, in order to be successful, they've got to trust me, and they've got to trust that I'm going to not judge them. Because I mean, the reality is when you run your own business, it's hard and you have to make a lot of decisions, and they're not always the right decisions. So if you want to value someone's business, you got to know top to bottom what's happening in that business. So to ask somebody to open up their books and show me what's happening, and to open up their book of business and show me the decisions that they've made, good, bad, or indifferent, they got to trust me. And the fact that, you know, I do that in a way that empowers them to actually strengthen their business rather than make them feel not so good about some of the decisions they've made, I think sets me apart. And I feel like being authentic allows me to build a brand where someone can relate to me and therefore trust me. And we're far more successful than the people who don't choose to be authentic in this world.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly why I love interviewing people like Carey. They're going to tell you exactly how it is. If you hire Carey in agency focus and you're going to bring her in, but you're not going to be authentic, you're not going to open your books, you're not going to be real, you're going to make it seem like everything is rosy red and perfect and fine, and it's not, she can't help you, right? This is one thing about Carey that I really enjoy. When she heard me speak, that's March of 2025, right? Things were really good. But then she said, well, Marques, if you could kind of find a way to kind of leverage a little bit more about the specific lingo, tie it in around things like client retention and performance and kind of some of the buzzwords, I took that. I took that feedback, we applied it, and now we've been doing a lot more work for people like Mass Mutual to Big I, all because Carey cared enough to give feedback about how to become better. And that takes trust and that takes authenticity. Love this conversation. Carey, let me ask you this question. What is the big thing or the big problem that most people have when they hire agency focus that they need your help with and they need you to come in and help them to resolve?
Yeah. So I think many people in our industry are great at relationships. They're great at sales, they're great at connecting with other people, but numbers just aren't their thing. Like the reality is, they're going to lead from their gut, they're going to make decisions, and many times it leads them to the right place. Don't get me wrong. But there comes a point where you have maxed out what you can do on your own, and they believe, okay, I've got a really valuable business and I work in the business, but now I need to actually pick my head up and work on the business. I don't know where to start. And we can help them with that. When you marry someone who looks at many agencies across the industry and you're not sure where to start, you might not know the exact problem, but you might say, I don't know how to scale this any further than where I am today. I don't know how to maximize my value. I don't know how to transition my business from where we are today to the next owner or to the next generation. And I'm worried I might not be able to position myself to be able to acquire. All those things we can help with because we can start to say, how do we maximize the value of the agency? How do we think about the things that we're doing a little bit differently? And how can I make sense of my numbers in order to know which levers to pull in order to position myself for where I'm trying to go? So honestly, I think the problem is they don't have clarity in their numbers or confidence that they know what they're looking at. And we provide that clarity and confidence.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have clarity in what you're doing, if you don't have focus in what you're doing, you are not going to make it. And I love Carey telling us that the numbers don't lie. Carey, I was talking to Charles McDade this morning. Great man. We have a big meeting coming up. He really understands the same things that you do about numbers, KPIs, metrics. He's talking about, right, Carey, how in the industry, there's so much more of a need for that clarity, for that focus, for those KPIs. Because again, I talked to Jordan and Chris Perry about things like client retention, right? Profitability, retaining, people on as far as your team and your process and be able to pivot and be nimble, things of that nature. My question for you, Carey, is what do you feel, Carey, are some of the key, most important performance indicators that people within inside the insurance industry need to know and make sure they can track?
Yeah. So you said one of them. The thing that makes an independent insurance agency valuable is their retention. The predictable recurring revenue in an independent insurance agency is high. And it is why private equity is so interested in our industry. It's why this business makes so many millionaires. Like it is great. But if you don't have a good handle on what your revenue retention is, your policy and customer retention is, you could actually unknowingly believe that you're doing better than what you are, especially over these past 2 years where we were in a hard market and all the rates were rising. You might think if you're just watching your P&L that things are going up and things are looking great without knowing that your client retention is actually declining and you're really not as healthy as what you thought. So there's multiple retention numbers that you need to know. The challenge is agency management systems do not make it very easy to track these numbers. So making sure you've got a great process and you understand how to do this and you're consistent across your business, then you actually can have the insight. It's actually not the easiest metric in the world to know. So I would put that the top of the list. Number two, know what your profitability is, because if you are growing, but you're not doing it profitably, you need to fix that, because that's what drives the value of your agency. So if I only had two things to tell you to know, I'd know my retention and I would know my profitability or my EBITDA. And I'd want to manage to that EBITDA all day long and make sure wherever I am in the life cycle of my agency, I'm maximizing it to make sure I'm positioned to do what I want to do next.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't retain your clients, it's very difficult to sell or grow your business. If you're not profitable, that's another problem. Carrie, I live by the saying, revenues feed egos, profits feed families. If you want to feed
Mhm.
your family, it's the profitability of the business. This is just great because it really comes down to the ability, right, Carrie, to know the numbers and know the data. And so, Chris, here's my next question, right, Carrie? Walk us through the process. Let's say I'm an agency owner and I've heard about you from Chris Paradiso or Dave Taylor or Albie Knight, and I can go down the list, or Matt Labuti, all the people that we know and love and think are amazing. Walk us through, because there's a lot. We do get a lot of people, right, Carrie, that are in the insurance industries. Matter of fact, one of our latest sponsors, he actually loves my Jaguar squash show that I do for my football. He owns an insurance agency in Florida, St. Augustine. He does insurance on short-term rentals, Airbnb style vacation properties in the state of Florida. And so it's amazing people love the insurance space or in it, either that show or listen to it from our show. Please walk us through. I'm an agency owner. I've heard about you. I want to retain you. Walk us through what that process would look like.
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways to engage with agency focus. So, number one, you could need a valuation. You would call our organization and we would walk you through the process of valuing your business. And then we would tell you what data was required, what you could expect in a turnaround time, you could expect confidentiality wise. That is probably the basic way that some people engage with us. But what really ends up happening is we provide you with that valuation and you say, great, I need to take 15 steps in order to maximize the value of my agency. That's where a fractional CFO engagement would come in, where we actually stand beside you, walk alongside you, and work on those identified things that you need to do to maximize your agency's value. It could be compensation structure. It could be really diving deep into your P&L and thinking about where you're allocating your resources differently. It could be thinking about your sales strategy and figuring out where you're getting your leads from and where you're putting your resources to make sure that you're getting the ROI that you need. That's really the bulk of our work, is acting as a fractional CFO, where we're helping you create those goals. We're managing your process and your progress towards those goals. And we're making a big impact on where you started and where you end in the value of your agency. So that's the engagement we love the most. And it's also the one where we feel like we make the biggest difference inside an agency. So whether we benchmark you or we do evaluation, the goal is to actually put in action some of these insights in order to move your agency forward.
You know what, Carey? I wrote something down and I absolutely love what you said about in your business, right? You have to understand where you're at, where you're going, but what you need to do to get there. And that's the key. And it's so important and it's so vital. And Carey, what I love is you're saying, hey, valuation. Let's come and let's take a look at the numbers. Again, ladies and gentlemen, it goes back to the data, it goes back to the numbers. If you haven't learned anything from this interview, I know I had, because I speak a lot in the insurance industry, and these things that she's talking about really get me excited because I can add this into my PowerPoints. I'm gonna be a little bit selfish right now. So, Carey, I have a job coming up for PIA, professional insurance agents for the DC, Virginia, North Carolina chapter in June, right? It's about how AI can help enhance your agency. Please, Carey, speak to people in the insurance industry or people in general how AI can be such a powerful tool combined with like what you do. Here's the business strategy. Here we can bring to the table to make everything go where you want it to go.
Yeah, so I've been saying this long before AI was a buzzword, and honestly, it came from an agent, one of the first agents I've ever met. I don't know that you've had the pleasure of meeting him yet, but maybe you have. So Matt Simon and Seth Zaremba were two of my closest friends when I first started my career. They were on that board, and they're responsible for me loving this industry and wanting to stay and create a career in this industry. But what we all said was the agencies and the agency owners that can leverage and really figure out the balance between relationships, data, and technology are the ones that are going to win. And so it used to be you could be incredibly successful in an independent insurance agency if you're able to build great relationships. And that's still true. We are relationship driven. But the reality is you have to be able to do it efficiently and as profitably as possible in order to compete in the marketplace today versus the marketplace that was here 20 years ago. So AI creates that gap and creates that opportunity for you to compete in a different way. Your human resources no longer need to do every job from beginning to end. You're able to automate some of those things. You're able to use AI to make you be able to discern information, maybe figure out lead sources, maybe figure out content, etc. And you have to find the balance because that relationship piece is still incredibly important. So you can't automate everything and turn it into there's no contact. People still have to trust you. And where that line falls is different for every agency, but there is no doubt about it. Our world is moving to a place where we want things done more efficiently and we want things more accurately. So how you define it inside your own agency, the only mistake that can be made is if you ignore this and say, that's not for me, because you will be competing with agents that are leveraging this, that are more efficient, that have more resources and are able to compete in a completely different way that didn't exist when I started in this industry.
Carey, as always, riveting, informative, educational. I truly am so grateful for our friendship. You have helped me directly and indirectly in my career. I was so glad to ask that selfish question because I knew coming from you, it would be a bit of like the emotion behind it, the human piece, the business piece, and again, as people like you have said, Chris Paradiso, Charles McDade, if you're not bringing AI into your business in the insurance agency's perspective, you are going to fall behind. So this is from one of your experts, ladies and gentlemen, in the insurance industry with agency focus, Carey Wallace. You need to pay attention. Don't ignore it. If you're not strong in it, that's okay. Give her a call. As a matter of fact, Carey, please tell our audience how they can get in touch with you. They want to have a consultation, find more about agency focus, or just connect with you in general overall.
Yeah, so I'm all over the place. It can be found on LinkedIn. We have a website. It's agency-focus.com. Our team is ready to help in any way we can. But I'm not difficult to find at all. I will tell you this, Marcus. I want to say one thing, if that's okay. It has
Please
been
do.
an absolute pleasure watching you build and grow and change and really expand your reach. It's been incredibly exciting to watch you do what you do, and I'm honored to be a guest.
Well, Carey, you are a friend. You are a respected colleague. You are an expert in your field. And I just can't thank you enough for stopping by. And also, Carey, just caring enough when I first met you to be honest with me. And again, ladies and gentlemen, that's the authentic tip of this great interview. Surround yourself with people who care enough about you to tell you the truth. And that's what matters most. Chris Paradiso, Carey Wallace, Daniel Song, Mick Hunt. I could go down the list. These are people that I know when I want to get something told straight up. That's where I go because I'm going to get exactly what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. There's a huge difference. Again, my name is Marques Ogden. I am the host of the Get Authentic with Marcus show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.
Recording stopped.
Carey,
All
this was
right. That was
great. This
fun.
was
Yeah.
awesome. You're going to get an